It was Glastonbury. The year was 2000. But in some of the comments below the video, one of the guys, the commentator said he was there, and he said he watched this set as the sun was going down, absolutely awesome, and he went round the corner and watched David Bowie, and he said it was just his best night ever. You know, so you can imagine that sort of scenario.
It's showtime, folks.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Into the Music. And on today's episode, John is going to give me a song and a band to listen to. So, really changing it up on you, aren't we? So, John, what have you got for me, sir?
Okay, Andy. I've got a tune by a band. They're called the Beta Band. The name of the song is B plus A.
Okay. I will I'll go give it a listen. AB will go give that song a listen. I'll be right back. It was only a matter of time before I found myself back in Glastonbury. Here we go. This has been fantastic to this point. I really don't have much to say because I'm just focused right now on what's happening musically with this little jam session we have here on our hands. This is interesting. Gonna kind of save some of my detailed thoughts for John when I talk to him about this, but this is reminding me of similar stuff. I mean, of course, it reminds me of similar stuff. It reminds me of stuff that was coming out around a similar time that was really deemed experimental by the band I'm thinking of. But yeah, we'll see where this leads us. Maybe it'll go down a completely different path, and I'll no longer have that opinion. Just in the nick of time. Wow, that was something. That was something. It's funny because it's live, right? So you think you're try not to get distracted by all the visuals because you can become like oversaturated in everything that's happening around you, and yet all that mattered to me and really all that stood out were just these three dudes making music together, um, with zero distractions, and it was good. It was interesting. I mean, this isn't a top 40 hit, but man, it's musicianship, and that's kind of what matters. All right, on to John to discuss these guys some more. Oh man, this was uh this was really cool. I really liked it. It was just very experimental, um, right on display for everybody to see. That's it's just very interesting to me. And I've got to ask in my notes. First of all, my notes are atmospheric sounds and sonic experimentation were the first two things I wrote down. And then I wrote, I can't really shake how much this reminds me of Radiohead. And honestly, it reminds me of the Radiohead of like what looks to be this era where they really started to like kind of experiment with their albums, and there's like a whole change in soundscape kind of from them. They kind of really dug into the whole experimenting with, I don't know, production and kind of different sounds that they had not really messed with before. And so I kept getting like, I don't know, Kid A type stuff was coming to my mind when I was hearing this, but almost a more primitive version in that there's like all this drum circle type stuff that they're doing, but at the same time the guitarist is up there and he's got his little digiboard and he's messing around with stuff. So it kind of mixed that era Radiohead sounds, at least to me, with this other kind of primitive, jammy, bandy kind of auxiliary percussions, which I thought were really cool. I mean, aux percussions are super neat whenever anyway, especially when you get to see it done live and by multiple people, and it's creating all of this, sound that works together and is really complementary. So that was awesome. Liked that dude. I sort of talked about this with his Digi effects board, but loved what he was doing with different sounds. Sure, Greg is going to love this one because it's got plenty of wah, and we all know that he's the sucker for the wah. So yeah, that was really cool. From a composition standpoint or structure standpoint, I loved how they sort of took the song, like it took a while to build, but you watched it get built in real time. Then right when it was built and you felt like you understood it, they deconstructed the whole thing. And then they built it anew thereafter, which was kind of fun to watch happen all in real time. And then the last bit I wrote was, yay, a drum triangle to end things. So that was really cool. And, they all sort of get on their different bongos or toms or whatever, and there's hand toms, and they're just sort of going at it. So yeah, this was really cool. Didn't need lyrics for this one. I know, I tend to be a lyrical guy, but when the music is this kind of fun and interesting, it's just kind of cool to watch how it plays out and where it goes. So yeah, great recommendation. I'm surprised I haven't heard more from these guys, given when this, I mean, you could tell by the crowd, like this is sort of either very late 90s or very early 2000s, is sort of like the time period I got. And that was, I was listening to albums by Radiohead and stuff at that time and kind of music like this. So it was interesting that this didn't come up on American radars, at least not to the level where I would have caught it in passing. So what say you about them? Tell me some more information about them. I see you've got the album behind you right now.
Yeah, so just about this song first. The thing I loved about this is, like you're saying about their experimentation and but they're doing it all live. Mm-hmm. And so there's real kudos in that. And I have to say, special mention to the drummer. I mean, it is his job to keep time, but God, he managed to keep it really well. I mean, there's even a point, if you notice, where one of the guitarists, one of his effects failed, and they were messing around and it went out and then came back in again. But you just, you wouldn't, if you weren't really listening, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
For about 10 seconds, one of his pedals failed and someone was pissing around at the front. But yeah, I just loved it, and the fact it was live, and there's but apparently I wasn't there. It was Glastonbury, the year was 2000. But in some of the comments below the video, one of the guys, the commentator, said he was there, and he said he watched this set as the sun was going down, absolutely awesome, and he went round the corner and watched David Bowie, and he said it was just his best night ever. So you can imagine that sort of scenario. It sounded really cool. Yeah, they're an interesting band. They kind of, I don't know what, it just never really happened for them as like it should have done. They achieved some sort of fame, particularly in this country, but not as much as they could have got. I don't know what went wrong. There was some sort of breaks and hiatus, but I'll tell you a bit about them. So they are Scottish band originally from Fife. They were formed in 1996. There was two guys, Steve Mason, he's the main guy, the songwriter, and he was the guy on the guitars and on the bongos, and he drums sometimes as well. And another guy called Gordon Anderson, who they had a few people in and out, and then they settled with, there was another guy, Rob Jones, who's the drummer, John McLean. Where are my detonators? He was a DJ and keys and sampling, which again, there's other songs in that set which you see on YouTube, and he does it really well, and they do some really weird stuff, more experimental than this. And they had a bass player. He left and was replaced by Richard. Let me get his name right because he did a grand job as well. Richard Duffield. No, he left, sorry. Richard Greentree is the guy who came in, so he's the bass player. So yeah, they formed and they signed to do their first records, and at that time Gordon Anderson was ill and he left. So they knocked out 3 EPs. This one is the first, and this track is off it. So the 3 EPs, of which I have all 3. That's the second EP, the Patty Patty Sound, and that's got on it actually a song called Inner Meet Me, which is my favourite. And Los Amigos del Beta Banditos is a third EP. And they were not particularly successful, but highly acclaimed. So they combined them all and brought an album called The 3 EPs, which had every track from there on it. And that did make waves in the UK. So then they rushed out the debut album, and they admit afterwards that it was pants. I mean, it just was a mess. I didn't really like it, but then they brought out an album after that. It was called The Beta Band, the album, and then Hot Shots Part 2, which I absolutely adore. It's a great album. Some great songs on there. Again, things conspired against them. So they had a song on there that was going to be their lead single called Squares. But they had a sample in that, Daydream, which was used in another track, which released about 4 weeks before them and became a hit. So they decided not to release that, they released something else. So things always seem to go wrong for them. They brought out their third album, Heroes to Zeros, which became a self-fulfilling prophecy because it just went, and it's a good album, but it just didn't sell, and so they split. The main guy, Steve Mason, he did various side projects. I'll show you this just because it's cool. So one of the things he did was a thing called King Biscuit Time. It's basically him. It's just a really cool cover, and it's called No Style. That's one of the EPs. It's very, very funny, and he's brought out 3 solo albums, all of which are absolute belters. He has a certain sound to him, so you could recognise a Steve Mason song straight away from the Beta Band all the way through to solo stuff, and I just love it. I'll read you a little bit off Wiki, again. So their style was described as folktronica, although it was mainly a blend of folk, psychedelia, electronica, experimental rock, and trip hop, often involving stylistic experimentation, and there's definitely that in all of their stuff. Despite inner conflict and the eventual decline of the group, they became critically acclaimed after releasing their first few records, blah, blah, blah. They were praised by members of both Radiohead and Oasis, the former of which chose them to open their concerts for them in 2001. So they opened for Radiohead. So there you go.
Totally checks out then. I feel vindicated.
Yeah. So I thought this was, I originally picked this in my list for Greg because I thought he'd go ape over the guitar bit. But then I thought, well, this is about as proggy as I get. And I know someone who might appreciate all the twists and turns in this song. So that's why I gave it to you.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I appreciate you having done that, because it is just hella, like you said, there's almost this you ever see like the idea of where like surgeons perform a surgery in a gallery and there's like an audience watching it happen? That's kind of like what I would feel like as an audience member watching this sort of surgical dissection, assembly, creation, just Frankenstein type experiment happening live before me on stage. And that's the vibe I got right from jump. And I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting ride. And it was, man. I really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of really fun to sometimes see how the sausage is made with music. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That was a good one.
The fact that they could do it live rather than, not just rely on studio chicanery to get this experiment, they could actually do it. Was there's other clips on the YouTube universe of them playing live. There's a couple of sets they did for Jules Holland Later. May have mentioned that before, that show. And that they're again fantastic. There's one where he's wearing this purple like druid's gown. It's just hilarious. They have a great sense of humor, the band, as well. And although they're not feted as much as some of their contemporary artists are, they are much loved by those who remember them.
So they have a bit of a cult following.
Yeah, definitely. And there's lots of people out there who will say that they had such a great time listening to, especially those first 3 EPs. So yeah, I'm very fond of this band because of what they try and do. And it doesn't always hit the mark, but when they do, it's so usually unexpected and really cool and sort of new sounding.
Yeah,
fresh.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I really, really like this. This is cool. I'm gonna have to go check out some more, especially like if the live stuff is. If what I watch was any indication of what their other live performances can be, I might have to go searching for that.
Yeah, I think it'll be up your alley. Cool. Shall I take us out?
Yeah, by all means.
So for our British viewers, right about now, you would have the bit going across the bottom of the screen saying, "You have been watching." That makes no sense to Andy at all, but there you go. So thanks for listening to our ramblings. I hope you enjoyed it. Any fans of Beta Band, drop us a mention and tell us what you think. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to be good to each other, and we will see all of you on the next episode of Into the Music.